Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. Back in 2022, me and my dad decided to hike up Mount St. Helens. We hike together all the time, so this is really nothing new. In fact, I'm going back for another hike up the same mountain tomorrow. One thing was different than the rest of the hikes this time though. Mount St. Helens is a little over 4 miles up with about 1 to 2 miles through a wooded area before you start hiking up the rocky open parts. Just as we exited the wooded part and started hiking up the first set of rocks, we heard a voice call out to us. The voice screamed, "Dad." It sounded exactly like my brother. We had come with my brother because we were on a trip in the area, but this was one of the activities we had planned where he did not want to come with us. My brother is out of shape, very unathletic, and hates hiking. Once we heard this voice, me and my dad turned to each other to make sure we weren't hearing things. Sure enough, we both heard it without a doubt in our minds. We instantly agreed it sounded exactly like my brother. Since we were 1 to 2 miles in now, we knew it was almost definite that he had not come this far with us. We stayed there for a good amount of time to make sure someone wasn't behind us or something, but no one came. No one passed us, coming down for a good amount of time either. So it couldn't be that. To make matters worse, a fog rolled into this area while we were watching for people. So we took no chances and just continued the hike up. We made it to the top and came back down with no more problems. Once we got down, we asked my brother if he'd come up with us, and all he said was that he never did. This experience has left a strange mark on our brains that me and my dad will never forget. We completed the entire hike again the next day with no problems, but when we passed that area, there were always people around. Unlike last time, as we were walking through the forest on the way back, I kept having this distinct feeling of being watched. I never saw anything, so I don't know what this was all about. I was about 13 or 14 at the time this happened. It was summertime, and during the summer, me and my friends loved to go on the trails at the nature preserve. At night, it's quite creepy, and we loved the adrenaline we got from it. Now, most of the trails are quite short, but one of them is 2.5 miles long and goes through half the entire nature preserve. We had always been scared to go down this trail at night, but this time, we decided to face our fears and just go for it. We went down the trail, which was a gravel road. It was quite wide, so we were all spread out next to each other on our bikes, about 6 of us in total. The trail was surrounded completely by woods, as you might imagine, and there was no light at all. To make it extra creepy, we decided not to use any flashlights as to not interrupt the atmosphere, which was a terrible idea, and you'll see why later on. We were going down this trail when, out of nowhere, we suddenly stumbled across 8 deer in the middle of it, just standing still. For some reason, one of my friends has always had a fear of deer. He was panicking and trying to go back. We didn't want to let him go by himself, though, and we also didn't want to leave the trail quite yet, so we forced him to stay. Out of nowhere, the deer suddenly started running away into the woods as if they'd just been startled by a potential predator. You know how when you're in the woods, you hear all the crickets and frogs during the night? Well, all of a sudden, they all went quiet. It was complete and utter silence. We were all freaked out, standing in the middle of the trail and expecting a bear or something to pop out. We stayed in place for a minute or two, until all the sounds came back and everything seemed to be normal. I don't know why, but even after that, we still had the will to keep going down the trail. We continued on when the trail started to get very narrow, about 5 feet wide or so. We didn't realize we were at that point yet, so we kind of all smashed into each other, and it took a little bit to recuperate, but we got into a single line and went down the narrow trail. At this point, the trail went from gravel road to a small and narrow dirt path. The following moments are by far the scariest of my entire life. We were going down this narrow path in a single file when I looked over to my right and noticed a bit of light. We were next to a road off in the distance, meaning we were nearing the end of the trail. Now I was looking at this road, not paying attention to what was in front of me. At that point, I ran right into the person that was ahead of me. It was like a domino effect, and we all fell down. As I was getting back up, I started to hear the sound of wood knocking all around me. We all heard it. We were surprised. We began to hear people talking. You know what it sounds like to be in a room full of people saying things? So you hear people talking, but you can't make out what they're saying. That's exactly what this was. At this point, the voices stopped, and we noticed the silhouette standing on the road in the distance looking right at us. We took this as a sign to turn around and leave right now. We started to race back. As we were riding as fast as we could, my bike chain broke. We stopped to fix it as fast as we could. As we were fixing it, the woods went quiet again, and we heard footsteps from all around us. As soon as it was patched up, we booked it the hell out of there. As we exited the trail and got back to the road that my neighborhood is on, we heard what sounded like a woman screaming coming from the trailhead. We raced home and never went back to that trail again. First of all, let me start this by saying that I'm no writer. I suck at writing, really, but I wanted someone to share my story. It was 2012, and I was dating this guy named Michael. He had stayed the weekend at my place but had to be back in Darlington for his work at stupid o'clock in the morning. My dad, coming off his shift, told us that he would drive Michael home, only about an hour or so away. 3 a.m. comes, and me, Dad, and Michael all pile into the car. It was all very normal so far. We get to Darlington and drop him off, then get back on the road home to South Shields. It was about 4 a.m. now, and it was pitch black outside. I was not scared, though, as I had my dad with me, and he was ex-army. Don't ask me how, because it should have been a straight road home, but somehow we actually managed to get lost. It was like a horror film. This thick bank of fog just came in out of nowhere, and we couldn't see jack squat with our headlights or even with the high beams on. My dad came up with the idea of keeping close to the car in front of us, which worked until we lost the car in front. There we were, at 4:30 a.m. roughly, in the middle of bump * K nowhere. We came across this tunnel as we were trying to find our way home. By this time, I was really stressed out. I begged my dad not to go down this dark and foreboding tunnel. But my dad, being my dad, drove down anyway. It was an incredibly short tunnel. The other side opened into a town of some sort that seemed to be very small, and, on my heart, a bunch of people suddenly came out of the darkness and surrounded our car. They just stared at us. It was some real children of the corn type stuff. They just stood there surrounding us and staring. My dad immediately started to back up, and the people behind us stumbled and got out of our way. My dad backed us out of that tunnel and slammed the gas. It took us another hour to get home, but thankfully, the sun was starting to come up. To this day, I don't really understand what happened. Why did all those people come out of the darkness in that tunnel and surround us? They didn't try to attack us or anything. They just stared at us so coldly. But anyway, that's my story. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.